Danny, first of all, this incident of a person lighting himself on fire apparently is certainly going to rattle everyone involved with this court proceeding, whether or not it's linked to the Trump proceeding or not. But can you talk about legally what happens next now that we have a jury?
Now that we have a jury, now we begin with opening statements. That's the next major event in this case. I wonder if on Monday morning, if we get opening statements, if we start on time, there may be some housekeeping things, motions, things that might happen just before opening statements. I'm certain there will be filings over the weekend. We don't know what those are yet, but I'm sure they'll be dealt with on Monday morning. But now the show begins. And unlike other cases, you will lose jurors in cases throughout the trial. This is the rare instance where you could lose jurors after they're picked and before the trial even begins. So maybe even over the weekend, some more jurors may come in and say, I'm not so sure about this. This is something that both parties and the judge have to be very aware of, especially when terrifying things like this are going on outside the courthouse. That's something that might intimidate some jurors through no fault of any of the parties or anyone involved in the case. So this is a major concern, and keeping these jurors now that you have them is going to be a challenge for the judge.
Yeah, Danny, stand by for us. Let me go to our senior legal correspondent, Laura Jarrett, who is outside the courthouse now. But Laura, if I understand right, you were inside moments ago. Were you in there when this incident happened outside with the person lighting themselves on fire?
We were, Kate, and we were not aware of exactly what was going on. We heard some sirens, but it's Lower Manhattan. We hear sirens all the time, and we had no idea the disturbing scene that was playing out just outside of this courthouse. Just moments ago, Judge Juan Merchan making it clear we now have a full panel of 12 jurors and 6 alternates, as you guys have been discussing for the last several moments. But the morning was quite tumultuous, Kate. I mean, several jurors becoming choked up, sobbing at one point, saying, I just can't do it, eventually getting excused one way or another. But it sort of underscores just the intensity of what is happening right now. This is not normal. None of this is normal. And the jurors are really feeling the weight of it. And I was actually wondering whether, the judge would try to talk about adding more alternates, because I think we're going to see more and more people say, I just can't do it. We already saw 2 jurors that were seated earlier in the week come back and get dismissed. One, not because he said he couldn't do it anymore. That was a totally different situation. But at least one woman said she slept on it. She was getting bombarded by friends and loved ones who had figured out that she was on the jury. And so she ended up getting excused. And so I think the need for alternates here, Kate, is a lot more serious and a lot more significant than perhaps in any other case. It's also expected to be a long case to stretch on 6 to 8 weeks. I think it's just the idea that these individuals will manage to stay anonymous, as the judge has ordered, is going to become increasingly more under scrutiny, Kate.
Yeah. Laura, 2 questions. Do we know if this jury might be sequestered, if they might be, put in protective, a place where they'll be protected and can stay out of the public limelight? And also, just remind us what this case is about and what we'll start to hear on Monday.
Yeah, so in terms of the sequestering, obviously that would be a significant step, being able to not, stay at home with your friends and family. And that would be certainly something I'm sure that the jurors would be dismayed by. The judge has not raised it. The lawyers haven't raised it so far. We'll see whether the security situation and certainly what happened today changes it. That just hasn't come up yet so far, Kate, and it would be totally within the discretion of the judge to decide that needs to happen. We're not there yet. In terms of what the case is about, at its core, this has to do with a falsification of business records. And that might sound sort of legal and wonky, but what the prosecutors want to tell, the story that they want to tell, is that the former president was so concerned about the female vote back in 2016 because the Access Hollywood tape had been released. And so he was concerned about shoring up the female vote. And there was a story that Stormy Daniels was shopping about an alleged affair, which he adamantly denies. And so he directed his former fixer, Michael Cohen, to pay her off in the the days ahead of the 2016 election. Now, he denies having any knowledge that any of this happened, but that's what prosecutors have charged him with, is falsifying his books and records, doctoring his internal business records to cover up how he reimbursed Cohen for that payment. He's not charged with campaign violations, even though it sounds like campaign violations. He's not charged with any election-related interference at all, but it's the story that prosecutors want to tell here, Kate.
Laura, thank you so much. Let me go back to Danny Savalos, our NBC News legal analyst. Danny, play this out for us. How long do we expect this trial to last? And again, similar to what I asked Laura, just play out what we could see in the coming weeks.
If you had asked me 6 days ago, I would have had a different answer, and I would have bet long on all the estimations. I would have said 3 weeks for jury selection, maybe 8 weeks for trial. But Judge Merchan surprised everyone, at least surprised me, by getting to jury selection in such an important case in just a week. I cannot stress to you how surprising that is to me and to plenty of other lawyers I've talked to, many of us who have been on jury selection for weeks longer than that on cases that nobody has ever heard of. So really, I mean, credit must be given to Justice Merchan for getting through jury selection, very difficult jury selection, in just a week, and not really even a true week with Wednesday off. The really interesting thing is that, you know, when you're selecting jurors like this, normally, if a juror comes in and says, I know the defendant, I have feelings about the defendant, usually that's going to be a for-cause challenge and the juror would be gone. In this case, the juror knowing the defendant and having feelings about him was kind of baked in. It was something that was assumed, and Justice Merchan had to pivot and sort of adjust to that fact of life. And so he got through jury selection with remarkable efficiency, though I'm sure not without objection from both sides.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.